I swear to God, if y'all come in here yammering about the butterfly effect, I will come at you with a frying pan. Shut the fuck up. Okay, alright. Let's do this. This is gonna be hard, man. This is gonna be way more difficult than So What. True to LOONA form, this fucking video is an endless well of little details speeding by frame, and it's going to get long. Maybe it's best if I just take y'all on a journey with me. Meaning, I'm going to analyze the song before I make a theory about it. Or I might not make a theory at all. Let's just collect our data, okay? We'll go through this bit by bit, shot by shot. First things first, the logo animatic. This is new. ++ had the moon waning towards the right on a white background, while XX had the moon waning towards the left, in the style of YYXY. Hash had the moon waning towards the right on a black background in the style of odd eye circle. Now we're seeing a new permutation, a mesh of the latter two styles. The first shot of the MV is someone standing in the center of a spinning, drifting vehicle, a Peaches car colored black with a yellow flame. There's a bird's eye view of it, which I want you to keep in mind for later. Just after this, there's a small series of shots wherein a shadow passes over the moon. Then, of course, we have Heejin with her 12 glitter crystals on her face, singing at the camera against some flashing neon lightning. This might be important later. Then there's Cherry in her signature upside-down shot against a mirror, in a blue room with red neon flames around her. I gotta say, I love that she has this one thing that she's allowed to do, and only her. We know what mirrors and upside-down images mean in the Looniverse by now. And then this shot. This shot is really important, I'm sure of it. It's Kim Lip in her blonde hair and white dress all the way back from fricking Love Cherry Motion. She's running through a field just like we saw back there, only it's pitch black outside. There's 3 orbs of light circling her. Again, we have some idea of the ramifications of this. Then we get this series of shots, Heejin on a dirt road in pitch blackness with lightning in the background and meteors falling around her. That's probably continuity or something, or with the falling fireballs at the end of So What. And then, Jinsol in a telephone booth. I have no idea what that means. Jinsol is making a call, maybe? Who's she calling? But it's snowing outside the booth. That's either one of two things. The rain that follows her has become snow, which is associated with Hostel and Chu, or it's not snow at all and it's actually ash, which would also make sense given, again, the whole burning moon angle of the last MV. Then there is a dance scene. It's Eve, Olivia, Chu, and Cherry. They're dancing in a wrecked store? That's really doing things to my brain. Wasn't there a Secret Love and Live MV where Cherry replaced Hyunjin? And Hyunjin is the Earth counterpart of Gowon, who Cherry is replacing here. They're dancing between aisles 23 and 24, but that might be an unimportant detail. We return to the drifting car surrounding a person, and it's Olivia, I think? Then back to the wrecked store for a second before we transition to Vivi, who's in a parked car and lit by a lot of blue and red light. After another shot of the store, we transition to Chu's unique scene, which is another car. It's Chu in a flowery pink dress dancing next to the most flowery car on the planet. Okay, cool. Then we zoom in on Yojin in another wrecked store sitting in a shopping cart which is lined with yellow neon. Not sure if it's supposed to be yellow or if this was a bad attempt at orange. There's a bunch of cans and foodstuffs levitating around her. And then this scene. Gonna be honest, I've got no idea what the hell this means, if it means anything at all. It's not referential, so maybe it's just here to look cool? Then we transition to Olivia leaning back against, yes, another car. There's women in the background with their faces shadowed, and a red light cast over the lot of them. There's a shot of glorious continuity, that being the wolf eyes from Egoist, whose yellow eyes are immediately replaced with a shot of a car's front lights, making an obvious metaphor. She opens her eyes a second later, and we return to the bird's eye shot of the very first car, and I note that the road the person is standing on has a yellow line through the middle, and the skid marks make a circle. The whole effect is rather like an eye. Then it's back to Jinsol against some neon, and she is really wanting us to look at her face, specifically her eyes. Is she gonna... She did it! She fucking did it! Her eye did the glowy thing! We haven't seen anything like this since Sweet Crazy Love. And yes, I am sticking to that because y'all said Kim Lip's odd eye was glowing in that one butterfly teaser. I'm sorry, but it ain't. Y'all are fucking lying. There's not any sign of color here. But this, it's continuity. She did the glowy eye thing! Okay, moving on. Back to Heejin and her neon lighting and meteor showers. Then we're transitioning to Eve, who is standing in a lot filled with parked cars. A lot of these cars have open doors. Then we move ahead to Chu sitting atop her own flowery car and feeling the wind and sun. She's holding the types of flowers we typically associate with Go-On, curiously, and then we pan up to see an alarming sight. The sun, in all its gigantic, fiery might, much closer than it should be. Where the hell is Chu right now? Another Heejin shot, and then we see a series of clocks showing 11:59 turning to 12 o'clock. And then it hits! The dance scene with Hyunjin, Yojin, Vivi, and Go-On. I live for this shit. This is what I need. This is what I breathe. They're dancing on a patch of dirt, and there's planets and moons hovering in the darkness around them. We get a shot of several women from around the world, quite typical for us now, dancing in various places, before it's back to the underrated squad dancing. Then we go back to Kimlip in her dark field with her 3 moons. She's turning around all of a sudden, calling to mind the scenes in Girlfront where everyone is looking over their shoulders. After some more around-the-world shots, we get that curious shot of Go-On from the teaser. Still blonde, not blue-headed, but with a lot of blue smoke surrounding her, receding as if going in reverse. After Eve rudely kicks the screen and shorts out the camera, we next see a very curious shot playing in reverse. All of the girls holding hands and dancing around a fire on the moon. There's 11 members present, but the next shot is Yojin in some vaguely red void, looking up at the moon. Chu, in her sunny shot, raises her hand over her eye to block out the light, rather like Cherry used to do. After a spinning shot of all 11 faces, we cut back to Kimlip's field. She's levitating into the air, just like Heejin at the end of Hi Hi. We get a lot of different shots of people dancing before the chorus kicks in, and there's shots of LOONA play fighting with a shit ton of colored dust. I hope they're having fun. In the midst of it all, there's this shot of Olivia shadowed, and her other ladies displaying their signature glowing red eyes from Egoist. After that, an even more curious shot. Vivi in the same car park Eve was in with all the open doors, and apples floating around her. Kimlip is now floating right up into the air with her light orbs, with the grass underneath her taking on a reddish-purple hue. The final shot of significance before we get to the big whammies is another scene of the girls' feet hitting the sand of the moon as they dance around the fire, and a curious little burnt-looking object nearby. There's another shot from the teaser, this being the water ripples playing in reverse and receding back into unbroken water while lit in red, blue, and purple. Jin Soul's in her telephone booth with things floating around her, I'm not sure what. Then another shot of Kimlip, followed by her field, now without her, but with 12 orbs of light where there used to be 3. Then, the big one. A girl floating over the earth, floating above a massive hurricane. Several shots repeat, and then the biggest right hook ever. Hyunjin in her wet-looking void, reminiscent of Hostel's Iceland location, and further reminiscent of the place Olivia burned in So What. A blue butterfly passes her as she looks down, and we see one of her feet is bare. With all of that compiled, we can work backward from here and start making slight sense of things. The final shot is obvious. The butterfly, which is the important part, represents Hasul as the feathers did at the end of So What. Butterflies represent rebirth, and we previously saw feathers converted to butterflies in the X2X teaser for the XX album. Hyunjin's missing shoe was easily explained as the burned-looking object that LOONA are dancing around in their summoning circle on the moon. The next important part is that hurricane. That girl floating above it is probably Heejin, and loose and tangential though it is, there is precedent for it. Lines referring to wind have been sung by her both in Heat and in Butterfly, so at this point it's kind of her thing. She seems to have expanded this into a general weather theme, given the lightning that surrounds her in this MV. She's also lowering towards the eye of the storm, which is important as it relates back to the eye theme that's become prevalent during this comeback. Now, Kimlip in the field. We've seen spaces like this adopt color when one of the odd girls is involved, both in Eclipse and Love Cherry Motion, though I'm not sure if this is implying something to do with Cherry, or if the grass is meant to be red and it just didn't show up well. More important than that, or even the 12 orbs, is how Kimlip seems to levitate upward. Her dress flowing around her. I compared this to Heejin at the end of Hi Hi, but in truth, it reminds me more of Jin Soul. Specifically, it reminds me of this shot from Singing in the Rain. The reversing water ripples lit in the colors of Odd Eye Circle are obviously significant in some way, but I'm not sure how. I'm honestly lost on Vivi with the apples and Olivia's friends with the glowing eyes. I have a theory regarding apples I've been nursing but yet to fit into a video, but this doesn't work well with it. Obviously it has something to do with Eve, or Eden, I think. The thing with Chu and the sun is concerning. The sun is associated with Eden, and if it's getting closer to Earth... bad things? Maybe? I have no idea. And Jinsoul with that damn eye, man! I don't have any clue what's going on here. I know that her being in the telephone booth relates back to another resurfacing motif, that being imprisonment, that's shown up in everything since her solo. The shot with Olivia's wolf cutting into a car's headlights and then showing us the bird's eye shot. This probably relates back to the Eye of the Storm that was reflected in Heejin's last shot. Yojin in the store with all of the floating cans probably has some sort of significance, but right now I'm just putting it down to zero gravity. What's more interesting to me is Kimlip in the field in all white. Not only was this present in Love Cherry Motion, but Hostel and Yojin also looked this way during Hi Hi. God, there's continuity here at least, but I've got no idea what any of this means, not the slightest shred. If I were to make guesses though, and they are just guesses, this is the way I'd go with them. Let's start with the theme of this comeback, Midnight Festival. Midnight is a significant time of night. It's the point where the moon is highest in the sky, and a lot of rituals and dark magic and whatnot mark this time as significant, with only the 3 AM witching hour really competing in that respect. What they're trying to do is obvious, they're summoning Hasul's return. There's plenty of significant locations throughout this MV, though I will note a general lack of the bizarre post-apocalyptic scenery of previous videos. Rather, there are semi-urban environments throughout the video that call back to the alleyways of Sweet Crazy Love, which we know took place on Earth. In fact, I'm pretty sure this was shot in the exact same alleyways as Sweet Crazy Love. And the wrecked look of things is pretty easily explained as the result of the catastrophe that occurred in So What. Might also explain the levitating objects too, if the Earth's orbit was messed up. Going back to the Sweet Crazy Love sets, we see a few different people populating it. There's Jinsoul, Olivia, Eve, and later Vivi. This seems to back up my point that Vivi is from Eden, with all of the apples floating there when she arrives, but... Are there any other symbols we see associated with Loona here? Well, actually, yes. I did note the suspicious framing of these shots of Olivia and the car. It reminds me strongly of the overhead shots in Eclipse, or with the drift burns and the yellow line, and Olivia herself coming together to depict an eye, and the fact that a shadow is crossing onto the markings. Complete with Jinsoul's glowing eye, and the hurricane's eye depicted near the end, we have a pretty strong eye theme. Previous descriptions have implied Odd Eye Circle will save the world somehow. This might be what they're doing. The description of this MV states as such. To celebrate the new moon, Loona is expecting a new moon to rise. On this occasion, they will hold a moonlight festival at 12 o'clock, when the moon shines the brightest. A festival where no girl will feel silenced. New moon is capitalized the one time, so I'm sure there's some hidden meaning there. But putting that to the side for a minute, LOONA have previously used moons as metaphor for odd eyes, and vice versa. Let's suggest for now that the phase of the moon, full and new, indicates waxing or waning in the eye power. Kimlip is very clearly calling back to Singing in the Rain, or with her floating in the void here. That video, just like this one, was full of sets where everything was pitch black, so that you could barely see anything, implying a new moon, giving off no light. But with her being surrounded by 3 orbs and walking through a field, she also calls back to Love Cherry Motion with Cherry looking up at 3 moons. Jinsoul's odd eye is working now, which is curious, because the last time she was on this set it was covered by an eye patch, only for her to take it off and for it to begin to glow. Jinsoul is also associated with rain, of course, which makes me think that she has a pretty big role to play here, but with the thunderstorm surrounding Heejin and the hurricane covering the Earth. The continuity is here, we just have to figure out what to do with it. Perhaps what's being implied here is that Jinsoul, or Odd Eye Circle as a whole, can only act when the moon is darkest, or more broadly, when things are at their worst. That would fit in with the flames surrounding Cherry, and Kimlip rising into the void the same way Jinsoul did during the new moon in her solo. I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave off here. As much as I'd like to dig and dig and dig until I hit pyrite, I think my brain hurts enough. I'll be leaving further speculation to other people. Thanks for watching and listening. You have a nice day.